Good evening. My name is Kuria Kimani. I'm a Member of Parliament representing the great people of Molo, and that is in Nakuru County. One of the people who was elected at a very young age, elected to Parliament at 28, so just turned 32. I'm married with two wonderful children, Lance and Scarlett. Growing up for me was a typical rural setup. My mother got me when she was 17 years old, when she was in high school. So that means I was technically brought up by my grandfather and my grandmama, a mother in a small village called Mukinyai in Molo. So I went to Mwangi Primary School. I've always been an A student, so I was the best student during our year. Of course, qualified to join a national school, but my grandparents were too poor to afford it, so I had to go to a day secondary school, and that is in Kimani Secondary School in Subukia. I completed my Form 4 in 2005. I got an A- for 79 points, just missed 1 point to an April. So joined Kenyatta University between 2007 and 2011, pursued my bachelor's in commerce, finance. At the same time, I enrolled for my CPA classes and completed a CPA during the time I was done with my bachelor's. I had to complete my CPA. So later joined Strathmore Business School, did my master's in International Business Management. And then while pursuing my master's, I worked with United States Catholic Formation Society, incorporated Kenya's Million of Fathers, where I rose up to the rank of Regional Finance Manager for Africa Region, a position I held up to February of 2017, when I went to seek to be Member of Parliament for Molo, and was very honored to vie for the first time and win the Jubilee primaries and the main election. I love studying very much. I find a lot of connection when I read, when I learn new things, and I hope by now I've completed my PhD at the University of Nairobi. However, I think politics got a better part of me, so it's a dream delayed, but I'm still a continuing student. Hopefully, by the time we're getting to 2023, then I will be a Dr. Kuria Kimani. I would say joining politics for me was really by chance, because when I was joining both high school and university, we did a fundraiser in the village to enable me to pay for my school fees. And years later, I completed my bachelor's and I had a job. I always wondered, what can I do to give back to the community? And that's how I got involved in community service. So I started picking up students from humble families that are not able to pay their school fees, and started engaging also in other community projects like helping farmers in terms of educating them on the best way to increase the yields in their farms, facilitating them with seedlings and seeds, engaging in sports. But really education, I think, was a thing for me, because by the time of my election, 2017, I had more than 50 students that I was paying for their school fees in different levels of education, whether it's in high school or university. And that particular time I wondered, the fact that there is so much money that's set aside every year by the national government through National Government Development Fund, then how come there's still so many students that are not able to go to school, to study? And also that particular time I started asking myself, who are our civic leaders, who is a member of county assembly, who is our MP? And that time nobody knew him. I tried searching him on the Hansard at the National Assembly. There was no contribution. I thought, I think if I changed my career and joined politics and took politics as a career and woke up every day and did politics, woke up every day and took my parliamentary roles seriously, like I used to wake up every day as a finance manager and go to work, then I would make a difference. And I'd say that's how I got here. I thought, and then there's also this perception of this culture where people go to seek for political office in their retirement years. And with all respect to our elders, most of the time those people, if you're starting up as a member of parliament, for example, you don't have much to lose, whether you get re-elected or not. What do you have to lose? Your kids are grown up, you probably invested enough. But for young people, there is a lot that you stand to lose if you don't become re-elected. And if you look at the different professions that you have, we have the best doctors in the country because they have practiced medicine for 10, 20, 30 years. The key political figures in this country, why you talk about our President Uhuru Kenyatta or our Deputy President William Ruto or Raila Molo Odinga or say the Speaker of the National Assembly, Justin Muturi, they are all where they are because they started their political career fairly young. And so I thought that we need to build a wealth of knowledge in the world of leadership, on the field of leadership and politics. And that's why, despite I think almost all my friends and all my family members advising me against running, I said, yes, this is what I want to do. I want to build a wealth of experience as a lawmaker, as a politician, as a leader, that I could possibly be the President of the Republic of Kenya. I would say the biggest culture shock I got was I knew that being a member of parliament makes me a legislator. And for you to become a legislator, then you need to make contributions at the floor of the House. And then when I joined parliament, I realized there's something called what do you call it? Pecking order, where I will get to parliament very early. I would log in my card, and the longer serving members of parliament, the Aden Duales, would speak, would be picked, would always catch a speaker's eye and make so much contribution. And I would really struggle to catch a speaker's eye. And that's when I learned about that if you're a ranking member, if that means if you've been a member of parliament for more than one term, if you're in the leadership, then you always get picked more often to speak to particular issues. Unless now you become so good that in whichever field that you pick, and for me it has always been matters of finance and budget, that now the speaker will notice that you're an authority or an expert in that particular field. And even if you're not a ranking member, then you get a chance to speak more often. And it took quite some time to learn about it. And then also the expectation about, there are a lot of national government projects that you'll want to do for your people. But lobbying for them is not easy. You would sometimes look for a cabinet secretary or a PS for months. You just go to their office and they tell you, no, I'm going to see you next week. You go next week, they're not there. You go the following month, and you really have to be persistent because you need power connectivity to your people. You need a particular road funded. You need a particular project funded. You probably want to influence someone to be employed and all that, and that has not been easy. But overall, I would say that in terms of attaining my three roles as a member of parliament, and that is legislation, oversight, and representation, I can confidently say I've done that in a way that no one else has ever done that for the people of Molo. And in terms of also development, when I was seeking election, there was one major road that was a big headache, that is Kivunja to Molo Posta, and I promised them it's going to be done, and it has been done. The major road connecting Njoro and Molo constituencies, that is Njoro-Molo Road, has been a headache for so long. But I can tell you now, it is being done to the satisfaction of my people. There's Salga, Sechangwan, Mosamit Road, where we used to have accidents every time. I brought petition after petition to Parliament, and I'm happy that the President had us, and now that road is now a dual carriage, and therefore, as a result, we've been able to drastically, I'm sure it's been a while since you heard of an accident at Sechangwa and Salga, and that is really majorly because of the dualling of that road. So in terms of management because I oversight also, or I'm the patron to NGC funds in the constituency, we've had a bursary application process that has been transparent, There's been fair that has seen us educate thousands and thousands of students. We have transformed our academic institutions. We have now 98% of our day secondary schools have science laboratories, as in complete and equipped. And remember, this is also something that's very personal to me, because if you remember what I started telling you, although I qualified to join a national school, I went to a day school. And so I know what infrastructure means to the education of a high schooler. And that's why I made it a priority that our day secondary schools are so well equipped that students who goes to Tertiary Secondary School or Bombay Secondary School or True Secondary School or Molo Highway Secondary School has an equal opportunity of succeeding in life and succeeding in the exams, like the one in Alliance or any other national school that you can mention. I've been able to serve in 3 major committees, and I started with Public Accounts Committee and Finance and National Planning Committee, and now most recently into Budget and Appropriations Committee. And I can tell you, Chilangat, for a fact that if you check the Hansard on those committees, I'm one of the most active members in those committees. In terms of discussions at the floor, I think 3 years in a row, I've been ranked by Mzalendo as one of the most active young members of parliament in terms of making contribution at the floor of the House, because I refused to subscribe to this idea of members of parliament complaining in campaign rallies and on top of vehicles about particular issues that can be addressed in parliament. So I refuse to complain that that fuel is the increased cost of fuel, the increased cost of living, and do nothing at the floor. And I'll tell you that, for example, I one of the people who, in this finance bill, that really said we're not going to approve the proposed VAT on LPG gas, on fuel, on maize flour and wheat flour. You know, recommendations that were taken up by the House and adopted. And now we do not have VAT in those particular products. Over and above that, I belong to the caucus of Kenya Young Parliamentarians Network. And most importantly, we were able to bring together young parliamentarians across Africa. And it was an honor for all young members of parliament in Africa to elect me as their president. And I think that is a great milestone for me, that members of parliament from other countries, that is the likes of Bobby Wine in Uganda, or Malema in South Africa, or Toluwani in Nigeria, and Majid from Morocco, Dr. Zuena in Ghana, and so many others, you know, having confidence that, and electing me as a president, you know, and that to me was a great milestone for me as a person, for the National Assembly, and for the people for Molo. You know, I think the first thing I did is to understand my constituency. And what does understanding my constituency mean? Knowing who are those people that live in Optich. How different are they from the ones that live in Kapsin and Dead? How different are they from the ones that live in Sagaitim? How different are they from the ones that live in Casino? And further for understanding, if I have to ensure fair distribution of resources across the various communities in my constituency, then I must know who are the communities and where are they, and how do I reach them, and also ensuring that in the decision-making table that they are involved. And that's why, for example, in the composition of my CDF committee, I made sure that our second largest community, that is the Kalenjin community, is represented. Their Bagusi community is represented, their Baluya community is represented, and not just representing one person, but also making that in terms of development in these areas, that I actually make a deliberate effort to make sure that the Luos in my community, the Kisis, the Kambas, the Kalenjins, the Kikuyus, the Merus, all of them, when I look at, for example, their list of bursary, I ask for an analysis before we publish the results. You know, how many of these communities are there, so that in case there has been, for whatever reason, because sometimes we mean well as members of parliament, but the people that we trust to undertake these roles might discriminate against some particular people, some particular communities. It's by making sure that I deliberately make sure that there is that representation, whether it's bursaries, whether it's scholarships, whether it's development. It's ensure that I actually confirm that those projects are not just skewed in a particular area. But I think, again, to reiterate, is knowing your constituency and where are these people. And knowing that, for example, it was interesting to myself being a Kikuyu, I always thought Kalenjins are Kalenjins. Until I go to them and I'm like, no, sisi ni Wakale lakini ni nyumba moja lakini kuna milango tofauti. So kuna hao ni Wakipsigis, then there are Ogieks, there are Tugans, and you have to understand the dynamics and appreciate it. And once you understand, you make a deliberate effort to understand them and appreciate them, then you're able to make conscious decisions on making sure that they all feel represented in your governance and your leadership. I find it really unfortunate also that many young people, despite being very informed and very educated, would rather care more about how many goals Man U won against Liverpool or Arsenal, or how that John Deep case went, than really what is in the budget, than who voted for what success. And I wouldn't blame the young people entirely, because also Parliament has, sometimes we watch parliamentary sittings and sometimes I sit through them. And in terms of what is published, we could have a very good debate, a very serious discussion about the budget, about the finance bill. And then just someone raises a point or order and says, so-and-so is not properly dressed. And then we talk about it for the next 30 minutes about how someone is dressed. So really, when a young person from Elbagon or wherever watches their TV and they find members of parliament being paid to sit in that parliament discussing how someone is dressed, although the dressing is part of the standing orders, but the time spent about it, and of course, the media picking that as a main item of the news, they get discouraged. So I think one, as members of parliament, is knowing that every time you rise on the floor to speak to a particular issue, you must ask yourself, what value does this add to my constituents and to my country? And I think in the world of media, you call it content creation. So if you're creating content, so what content are you creating? What content are you selling? So that person that is watching or listening, then they're able to decide whether there's something they want to listen to or they want to watch. And if we make sure that members of parliament produce content that viewers are identifying with and they want to listen to, then we're going to have more and more young people both interested in listening into parliament proceedings and even wanting also to be politicians. Over and above that, I like the way parliament now has been able to publish its own sitting through the media office and the YouTube channel and on Twitter and on Facebook. And that when I make my contribution, I'm able to get an extract of what I said and also publish it on my own social media pages, because this has also ensured that we reach out to a lot of people outside the mainstream media, because we don't have control of what the mainstream guys will pick. And that's why they pick about an issue about how someone was dressed and not really the serious issues that we converse. But when we're in control of what we publish, and then we just make sure that the information reaching out is what we want to reach out there. I strongly believe there is need for many of us as young people in politics, because they say if you're not on the dining table, then you're part of the menu. And the dining table is where national decisions are made. And I tell you for a fact that the budget is discussed at the National Assembly. Taxes and laws are discussed in the National Assembly. And they're not passed on social media. No law is passed on Facebook. It's part of the floor of the House. And there are very many times that as young people, we've tried to push for particular interests that really support or affect young people. And I remember two instances where there was, I think one was there was one Ambassador Halima who was being proposed to the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. Fairly young person, I think at 29 years of age. And we try to argue the case that, that experience that she got when we're at school is experience good enough for her to serve in that commission. And most of my other colleagues shut her down. We had this other young person who, I forget his name, from Kisii, who was proposed to as a commissioner for ABC, I think it was around 2029. And most of the young people are saying, yes, we want this young person as a commissioner of IEBC. And then you'd hear my older colleagues dismiss him like, huyu kijana ataenda kufanya nini, atafute kazi ingine kwanza. And you hear the contempt in which some of my honorable colleagues would dismiss those young people just on the virtue that they are young people. And I'm like, okay, are you trying to say that for us who are here young are stupid, that we don't make good decisions? That if you can trust me to make a law for this country, why wouldn't you trust my age mate with an equally same experience or even more to a particular job like a commissioner, And here, no, they can't run. I know you're advocating for issues of young people, but experience comes with age. And I'm like, do you know some of the most successful companies in Kenya and across the world are led by young people, some of them below 30 years of age, and extremely successful. And I think that by many of the young people joining parliament, we will be able to stop that, I don't know, they call it prejudice, that, young people are stupid, young people cannot do anything, and young people cannot be qualified or efficient enough to lead or make decisions for this country. Because if you go to the corporate world, you find a very young, you find a very low median age. Like, you find a lot of young people in the corporate world rising up in the positions of management. Like, I would say some of my colleagues that I went through university with, some of them have become partners in the big 4 audit firms in the country. Some of them are becoming group financial directors, CEOs. But when you come to the public service, it's all men and women, and of course, if these young people are doing that well in the corporate world, then why are we not seeing them in the public service and them holding? And if you find them in the public service, they are at introductory levels, But you go to middle-level management, senior-level management, you don't find young people. We have a Ministry of Youth that, from the minister to the principal secretary to everyone in the ministry is old. And then quite a Ministry of Youth, And I raised that particular issue. And I was told, no, all these job groups you have to have, I think, 20 years of experience. And I'm like, so if you have a finance director leading a firm with a turnover of billions of shillings at 30, what is so difficult in running a department of government, But again, so that's why I really urge young people, please aspire to run for office. And this election, if you find a young person that has dared to dream, that has dared to lead, irrespective of which political party they belong to, please vote for them. I would say every day is a learning day, and you don't know everything. You have actually, coming from an academic background, you think you now a PhD student, you think you're very brilliant, then you come and realize, an older colleague who may not be as educated as I am has actually more experience. As a member of parliament, there's a lot I have to learn from them. Some of the contributions I've made at the National Assembly, I've got those ideas from my voters. That old lady in Mushorwe, I just go and talk to her and she tells me something, and I'm like, actually I hadn't thought about it that way. And I think it's, so my biggest lesson is that every day you have to wake up and be willing to learn and relearn, So learn something new, unlearn something that you thought you knew and it's not the case, and relearn, learn again and again. And also that don't be so harsh on yourself when you make a mistake. Wake up, dust your coat, and move on. But learn from it. I think that there was a time I didn't have such a good incident. I made headlines for all the wrong reasons, and it was a very down moment for me in my career. And I thought at that particular time I probably thought my career is that's it. But a lot of people that I talked to that evening told me no, this is not the end. But you have to learn from your mistake. You have to accept your mistake, and rise up and continue. And I think it may be stronger. And I'd say learning from it, it has made me a much better leader. And I would say that allow yourself room that when you make a mistake, you stand up, you dust your cotton. Huko nje wanasema unang'ara na unarudi soko. Unaoga na unarudi soko. You don't just sit down and moan and pity yourself and depress yourself because you screwed up or because you've made a material mistake. Just wake up, rudi soko, maisha inasonga. Okay, interesting. I play lawn tennis. I like being a kid, you have to be careful. This word running, yes. I run, so you'll find me most evenings taking a run. I'm a rider, so those people that are fascinated by speed, so you'll find me on a weekend with my speed bike doing 200 kilometers an hour. The adrenaline just refreshes me, and I also try to have a very close knit also with my family, with my wife and kids, and very often you'll find us take a trip. Our best, when you don't have so much time in your hands, you'll find my wife and I out on a movie or a play. I love to go for these Kikuyu comedies, at Fanaka Arts, those normal things that young people do. Once in a while, you'll find me out, with friends having a drink. Yeah, I try to remember to be a young person and to maintain being a young person. I also spend a lot of time I don't find spending time with my constituents, especially both young. I'm saying I have very interesting constituents. People I have a group of people like Kina Machwani, Kina Mavado, Kina Liquid, and we'll just sit down and and there's another guy called Nuti. Now they're teaching me this Olombotov, whatever language, and it's fun, I find it exciting. On the weekend, I'll go for, Q culture, we have what you call Aduria Kama, so you'll find me with those my elders, and there is a lot to learn from them. So I would say and those people you'll find with catching up with people like Mavadov, trying to understand that Lombotov language, or cruising on my speed bike, or watching a movie with my wife, or playing game nights with my kids, or playing lawn tennis, or running the field. I'm trying to teach myself how to golf. Not with a lot of success, but so I don't find myself doing 9 holes onto the entire course. But then, yeah, those small things I think help me remain focused. I look forward to serving my second term as a Member of Parliament for Molo. And to me, it's going to be a big achievement, not just for me, but for the people of Molo, because for the last 25 years, Molo has never re-elected a Member of Parliament. So I really look forward to breaking that jinx, showing that if you really, really do well for your people, they're going to re-elect you. Because I think it's a very bad culture, because you lose out on that experience in leadership. Then, of course, I'm the Hustler Nation, the Kenya Kwanza team. So I'm hoping that, very praying that William Ruto wins the presidency and we form government. I'm looking forward to serving in the leadership of Parliament. I'm looking forward to being the next person of Budget and Appropriations Committee, All Finance and National Planning Committee. yeah, I really look forward to that. I really look forward to really putting the, I'll still be fairly young, I'll be 30, 33, 34. And so to just see a young person in leadership, I think will not just be a win for me or for the people of Molo, but also for the youth of this country.